Hello everyone, welcome back in another video. I am Vaibhav. Today date is 30th of August 2022 and our today's video topic is internal implementation of HashMap. So in our previous video we are discussing about the mapping. So mapping can consisting the main purpose of map is to store a different is to store or get call faster than our array list and linked list. So in that term, we are using a nodes or we are creating an object of more than one data. We are creating an object for a key and value, and we are finding those data from the key basis. So in this video, we are going to see overall implementation of our hash map. So initially, hash map is a using the implementation of a hash table. So hash table initially consisting an array. We all know what is meant by array. So array are basically having its specific size or its specific size. Beyond their size, we are not able to add the element or remove the element. So initially, the default value for that array in hash map is a 16 value. That means we are also called as a buckets. There are different 60 buckets are in that array. So after that, and that each array or that each bucket can consisting a node, and that each node are having linked with the linked array. That means there are 60 different buckets, or we can call it as a 60 different array blocks, and that each block consisting a node, and that each node consisting a linked list. Okay, so we are discussing about also linked list in our previous videos. Let's go to our point. That is, for achieving our hash map, we have to use a hash code. That means at initial level we have to find out the hash code for the specific key. For that we are writing code like as we are using a map, and after that diamond bracket is there, or we also called as generic operator. Within the generic operator we are giving a data type for it, like suppose we considering a string for a key and we considering a integer for a value. Let's suppose we creating a phone directory. In that case there is a combination of name and numbers. That time the name that is in a string, that name can work as a key for that number. That means when we are for that value, when we are calling that specific key, we are directly get that value. That means we directly get that number. Okay, so for that we are have to implement this concept in our code by using three different classes. For that we have to use three classes, like first class we are creating for a main method in which we are going to implement our code. After that we have to create our next put method. After that we have to create our node method. Node class, node class and put class. So those different classes we have to create within that our implementation. So in initial level, as we discussed, our hash map consisting an array, and that array having default size of 16, and that each element can be and that each element we are called as a bucket. So that array are consisting of 60 buckets, and that each bucket consisting a node. So firstly we have to create the nodes. For creating a node we use a node class. So in node class we can write as node. Within their our diamond brackets we are giving their data type, that is the string comma integer. After that we are putting some values within that, like this. For we are giving the value like string key, and after that comma we are giving integer value. So after that we have to add some more things within that for implementing our for functioning of our linked list. We have to add one more a variable as a next, and our node can also consisting an hash code. That means our node are actually consisting four different types of data. So in that case, one is the key, another is the value, third one is the hash code, and next one is, and last one is the next. So After that, we have to create a constructor for the giving the specific value for those key and values. That means when the user can giving the input from their side, it gives us input in terms of keys and values. That time we are using a method put. In our previous video, we are discussing about array list. In array list, we are using for getting the data, for putting the within our array. We use as a add method. But in our map, their method is a put. We can write as a map dot put, and within that parenthesis, they are giving the value, a key and a value. So on those basis, we have to add the value between within our map. Okay, so for this case, our node is ready with their data. So within that constructor, we are write as this dot key is equal to key. That means key means giving the value from the user. After that, we write as this dot value is equal to value. That means that value given from the user. After that, we write as a node dot next. That means we require one more variable for linking the another nodes. And we can write as this dot next is equal to null. That means that default object are having value of null. And one more is our hash value, hash code. Okay, so there is our node class is ready. After that, we have to calculate a hash code for that particular key. That means we are allotting their locations, or we are giving them some specific size, specific location for getting the data or putting the data, for fetching the data. For we have to put there some on specific location. That time we are easily get call that specific key, or we are have to put that specific key on their specific location. That's why we have to use a have to implement the hash code. So in this case, why we need a hash code? In our scenario, we are using a different types of data. In our case, we are using a string and integer. So there is a combination of string and integer. That's why we are not directly allotting some value, or we are not get directly any index from their calculations, because there is some data are having data type as a string, and some data are having data type as integer or float or double. So that's why major problem is occur that the same type of indexing is there. That's why we have a proper solution on that. That is our hash code. So hash code is nothing but hash code is a pre-implemented in a Java. That means each value, each integer, each string, each character are having some specific hash code value within a Java. That means we have to only write that like as a map dot hash code, and within that parenthesis we have to give the key. We are allotting their spaces or location on the basis of key. Okay, so we are directly get that hash code value, but in implementally, how to get the hash code, let's we see. So for calculating the hash code, from our hash code we get the value of the particular key. That means which is predefined within our database or within our library. We directly get that value, but for putting that value within that array or within that bucket, we have to know the proper index for that key. So our array having a size from 0 to 15. That means its total length is 16, but due to indexing it starts from 0, then it go up to the 15. So we are having the range between 0 to 15. We have to calculate that index between the 0 to 15. For calculate that particular index, we are using one more formula for the calculating the index. So we can calculate that index as int index is equal to hash code divided by total length of that array. That means suppose our array is a, and we can write as a hash code mod a dot length. That means we have to create a modulus between that hash code and length of our array. By the operation of modulus we get the remainder. So that remainder is nothing but that is our index value. So the for each value, particular value, it has a different of hash code, and they are giving us different types of specific indexing for the same. So what actually we are achieving from that? We are achieving the index number from that calculation. So we can directly put that data within that specific bucket or within that specific index number. Suppose after that calculation, hash code and a dot length, we got the value reminder as a 1. So that time we put that data in our node 1 or in our index 1. So that time, if we have to, before that we have to check that node is empty or not. For that calculation we are again go in our code. So within that code we have to find that initial stage. That means we have to find that node is empty or not. That means that node is null or not. So node is nothing but the array, our array consisting different types of nodes. That's why we called as a nodes. And that nodes consisting small node, individual node. So for that finding we are taking a variable as a node, and we are have to check as if that node is equal to null. That time we putting that specific value on that index or on that particular node. So at initial level our node is empty. That time we putting our first value within that case. After that we are getting our next value by using the our put method. We can write as a map dot put, and we are giving the next key as ABC and next value as 5432. So for the particular ABC we have a hash code like 1112, and that by after the calculating that index we get the hash code mod a dot length, we get the value as a 2. Okay, so that 2 can have to put within that specific bucket, and that bucket are consisting a array linked list. So if there is any previous element is present within that our linked list, so how can we put that next element within that linked list? So in this case our next variable should comes in our use. So we are writing code as we are taking some additional variable for that, because we are not able to move that root or move that specific specific here from the start location. That's why we create a temporary variable. For that we are creating temporary variable like that node. Within their diamond bracket we are giving a data type of that key, that is the string, and we get the variable as a temp, and we write as a temp is equal to root. That means we are giving that first initial value to that temp. That's why we are easily moving that temp throughout our linked list. So for checking the next variable location, we are writing a code as if temp dot next is, we are writing that code within the loop. For we have to check throughout that linked list, we are putting that specific value on empty space. That's why we have to travel throughout that linked list. That's why we are using a loop. Let's we use a while loop. So in while loop there was we are giving the condition as temp dot next is not equal to null. Unless until that condition should be satisfied, our loop get continuously run. So when we get the next value of that temp should be null, at that location we are putting the our specific value or specific key on that particular index or on that particular array list. That particular linked list. So that is the type how we putting the some elements on that particular variables. So by using that method we are even able to store the multiple data within a minimum size, or in another word we can call as, by using these methods we are able to search finding operation as easy as compared to array list or linked list. So in this case suppose we are having a data of thousands of contact number. So that time we are not directly at a time going throughout that thousands contact number for finding that specific key. We only call the method of get. That time that get can be calculate the hash code for that particular key, and that particular key can giving us an index. So on the basis of that index, that means from that 16 buckets, it give us a number of any bucket, and we are only finding our data within that particular bucket. Then that bucket are consisting of our linked list. So that's go easy to find out. Suppose within that thousand contacts, our sorry, our second bucket consisting 20 contacts. So it is goes slightly easy for finding that particular contact within that second index. If we are finding the contact within the second index, if it is present, that means we get directly that element. Or if it is not present in that second index, that means this value or this key is not present in whole hash map. That's why we are not need to travel throughout that 1000 contacts. We are only have to travel within that 20 contacts on the basis of their indexing. So all those things should be comes as easy comes easier because of only hash map. So that is the major advantage major advantage of hash map. This is all about hash map. Thank you.